Guys, and welcome to American Culture. You see, yesterday I made a video about how this is the week, and many of us, this is the day that the promises, the visions, the things we've been faithful for come to pass. But for so many of us, we're kind of in a lull where it's like, well, God, when is it going to happen? What do I need to do in order to get there? Now, it's easy to go ahead and give all the clout to Satan. He's got some type of spell. He's doing something to keep you behind. There's a spirit of delay. But I always like to turn to God and knowing what his character is before I start saying, okay, Satan, you're doing the work here. And the thing that I know about God is that in order to be able to step into the promise, because that's really what it is, to be able to step into it, you have to complete a certain journey or a cycle of character development. And a lot of people don't recognize that's why you're at that job. That's why you're in that family. That's why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing right now, is because it's actually developing you to be the character to carry out the promise. And there are two major things that are going to help you develop your character and make you ready to step into God's promise. Number one is being faithful, and number two is being obedient. First, we're going to discuss faithfulness. Now, when it comes to that, that is the evidence of things that are unseen. And I want you to break that truth down. Faith is the evidence of things unseen. When there is evidence of something, then that says something else has already happened. And so if you have faith that you're getting married, if you have faith that you're going to be healed, if you have faith that you're getting that job, then that unseen thing has already happened within the spirit. And that is the first inkling that you are getting ready to see that in the natural. Now, the biggest burden to people being faithful is not Satan. It's you. It's because you don't see it happening in the natural. You think that me having all the faith that I'm going to get married, but yet there are no men around, that's a bad thing. What's going on here? And I'm here to tell you that if you have faith in getting married, it's probably a good thing that you're single and available. You see, a lot of people don't recognize that if the thing was happening, if you had all these men around, then you wouldn't need to be faithful that you would have a man because you've got one. It's like me. I have all the faith in the world that my blood pressure is going to be healed, that I'm not going to be on 3, 4, 5 different medications, and it's just going to work itself out naturally. Now, God has given me some things to do in order to get there, and that's the obedience, and we'll talk about that in a second. But would I need to have faith in good blood pressure if I had it right now? No, nor would I need to go through the character development that it's going to take for me to have in order to be able to maintain a good blood pressure later. And so the fact that your reality doesn't match up to what you're being faithful for is exactly the way that it needs to be. The opposite needs to take place so that you can develop the character in order to live out the promise. The singleness needs to take place so that you can develop the character in order to be a wife. I want you guys to think of it like this. Let's just say that you are indeed married and your husband is at work. You know this, you just talked to him on the phone, but you walk into the house and you smell food cooking. Now, if you know how food is, you could probably tell what is cooking. Let's just say you have a daughter. Now, in all likelihood, who's cooking that food that you smell? And let's just say it's spaghetti. All of those thoughts, the smell in the air hitting your head is what faith is. There is evidence that something is being cooked in that house. And because your outside environment, you just talked to your husband. You know it's not him. By faith, you can declare it is in all likelihood your daughter. That's the same thing that's happening with most of us in faith. We are smelling it. There is evidence that it's taking place. My reality says it's going to be you. And so therefore, it is. Now, the next thing that goes along with faith is that we have to be obedient. Now, let's go back to me and my blood pressure. God told me that I would have a nice normal blood pressure. I wouldn't need medications. What's going on in my heart will be healed in Jesus' name. But there are things I have to do. I have to give up the sugar, you guys, which means, and I'm going to be honest with you, the moment that I said, okay, God, I'll do the whole no sugar thing, I suddenly wanted sugar. I suddenly wanted to drink it. I wanted to eat it. I needed a cinnamon roll, the whole 9 yards. I knew that there were powers and principalities coming against me, and I have to hold on to faith in order to get through that. He also told me that I needed to lose some weight. And I have. I've been working on those things obediently, because in order for us to, again, walk into that promise, because the promise is already available. Remember, you guys, it has to be happening over in the spirit realm in order for us to have faith in it. The promise already has to be there. My good blood pressure already has to be there. But in order for me to walk into that, I've got to be obedient to what the Lord is telling me to do by faith first. So that obedience to, you're down to your last little bit of money, but God has said send $50 to XYZ. He needs to be able to trust you the same way you're showing trust in him by acting on the word that he gives you. And when I was praying about this and going over this, God let me know that we are always in season to be faithful and to be obedient. Now, here's the thing. He brought me back to Mark chapter 11. And the way that this works to me is I do my prayers, I do my thinking, and I open the Bible and I land where my finger lands. And it always, it's not even a joke, you guys, it always matches up with what God is telling me. And today I landed on Mark chapter 11, where Jesus curses the fig tree. And it was like this. My finger's been painted, so don't mind the thing on there. I was doing a painting. I'll show you guys later. And it says, and he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around and everything, and it was already late, he went to Bethany with the 12. Basically, this is Jesus making his triumphant entry into the temple, which is what I told you guys. A lot of us are getting ready to do this week. We're getting ready to go into the place to begin what we want to, where God has destined for us to begin. But it landed mostly on Jesus curses the fig tree. Now I'm going to go ahead and read that to you. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry, Jesus. And seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not in season for figs. And he said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And the disciples heard it. Now, you may be wondering, why in the world did Jesus curse the fig tree? That it wasn't in season. And this goes back to what the Lord was telling me. Obedience is always in season. There are so many times, you guys, we get up, we read the Bible, we pray all the time. We want to be, we're nice to people, we're kind, we're courteous, we submit ourselves, the whole 9 yards. There's so many leaves on our trees, but the fruit of obedience just isn't there. When God tells you to do the hard things, to do the difficult things, to get rid of the sugar, to have more faith, to believe actually in the unseen things that he said, to know that your environment is supporting that, the faith that you're having. When God is telling you to be obedient to the faith and the word and all the stuff that he's told you of, the fruit of that just isn't there. And what he's saying is, if he finds you in disobedience, that is a curse that no one will be able to eat from you. And so it is important, if not one of the most important things that you can do in order to be able to move forward, to nourish people, to live out that promise, to do what God wants you to do, is to be obedient. That is the fruit that God eats from, is your obedience. Your obedience is what leads to his glory and his satisfaction. So you are always in season. Don't be the fig tree that's out of season with a whole bunch of leaves. You can talk about how you read the Bible all day long, but the obedience to you going and telling that person the word God put into you to tell them just isn't there. The obedience to cutting out sugar just isn't there. That is what leads you to the fulfillment of the promise, and ultimately the satisfaction of the Lord. So you guys, a lot of us, like I said, this is the week. I've declared it for myself. This was the day that I actually saw myself living in, the word of the Lord. I no longer am worried about what people think about me through the internet or whatever else. Whatever God tells me to say, I'm saying it. So I declare that this was the day that I stepped into my promise, and I will begin to see more manifestations of the other things that God has me being faithful for from this day forward. I know that. I know that because I'm faithful and because I'm obedient. Have a blessed day, you guys.